Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on when you're watching this, awesome viewers and Lego lovers. I am always on the lookout for a great clearance deal, especially when it comes to Lego. And I'm always in for great minifigures or a great build that could be used as enemies or player characters in Dungeons and Dragons. And lately, I have seen several of last year's Dream sets on the clearance aisle. And so I have picked up a couple of those to build and put together and play with in my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. So I hope you'll come along with me as I explore just a few of them today. So get cozy as I welcome you back to Build with Travis, where we talk about Lego and Dungeons and Dragons, and it will always, I promise, be from the lens of a Christian. I am a father and a husband and a minister, and I also enjoy Lego and Dungeons and Dragons. And so when I saw this Raven set from the Dreamzzz line, I was really excited. But not only was I excited about the set, it was on clearance, and I cannot turn up a good deal. Now, as you can see, I didn't build the Raven, but instead I went for an alternative build in this set. You can actually build several different, what I'm going to call enemies, because that is exactly what I will be using them for. My player characters will be fighting these awesome guys. This set comes with a newer piece that looks like a huge cauldron. And when you first start out building it, in the instructions, it has you build what looks like a cauldron with legs, which in and of itself could be a really cool piece for Dungeons and Dragons. I might use it for some kind of mech or a cauldron that my characters have to catch for some reason. But a walking cauldron has a lot of uses, I would say. But each of the builds starts with this cauldron and then builds out from there. As you can see from the instruction manual, there's the cauldron, and then you can turn it into basically a large wolf. You could make this a dire wolf in Dungeons and Dragons. And while I have not built him, he does look pretty epic. Look, he's got a chair or maybe a throne up there that you could put an enemy on that your characters are fighting. Overall, just a really cool looking wolf figure. And as you can see, his base, his torso area there is that cauldron piece. And just like on the front of the box, you could also build the Raven. However, I am holding out. I'm probably going to build this one into a Raven because I am wanting that much larger Dream set that came out last year that looks like the big Raven with like the house on top of it. I think that would be epic for Dungeons and Dragons. But like I said, I actually built the mech looking build, and this is based on Z Blob from the television show. He's the little green blob that comes in these sets, except this is like his doppelganger. They're like evil versions of the characters in the sets that came out last year. And so instead of being translucent green, he's actually got that black colored face. But what's great about this is not only does it have articulation, but you can actually use those claws to hold a minifigure. That's right, you could have this beast pick up one of your player characters. Nothing like being picked up by the enemy that you are fighting and being thrown against a wall. Way to stress out your players, huh? Yeah, sounds epic. And something else I thought was really cool from this build is that not only do you get the mech, but this build also allows you to make a wolf. And so this kind of big creature also has a pet. And he's a pretty ferocious size. You can see him here with Tasha, even though she thinks he is pretty comical, apparently, because she is laughing hysterically. But there are also some really cool pieces in this set. You get enough pieces to build two of the cauldrons, as you can see there. But there's also these little glass cases with printed tiles inside of different things. There's some video games and some candy, what looks like a medieval village. And I have not watched Dream Season 2, so I don't know exactly what all this is. But also look at that translucent raven. What Dungeons and Dragons campaign doesn't need a translucent raven? But you also get some really epic figures. Like I said earlier, some of these guys are kind of evil doppelgangers of the main characters from the shows, but they look really evil. And if you've got a bunch of good guys, what do you need? Obviously, you've got to fight a bunch of bad guys. And so these guys look pretty evil, especially this one on the end that comes with the cool piece that she can stand on that makes her look like she is floating. This figure also has a really cool hair and kind of crown mold, as well as another one of those printed tiles that is in one of these glass cases up top. I assume this has something to do with dreams and her maybe stealing dreams from characters in the show. But again, I haven't watched it, but they could really be used for some fun things in Dungeons and Dragons as well. And as you can see, there are some really cool weapons in this set as well. And what D&D players don't want their minifigures to have cool weapons. And so you've got several interesting ones in this set. Some of these we have seen before, but not maybe in these colors. There is that one staff with the glass thing at the top, and a sword with the little Z blob on the top, which you could easily replace with something else. But overall, I think this set is going to be really good for Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, go Dragonborn Paladin, bash him real good. Smash, bash, clash. And another cool Dreamzzz set that I found on clearance that I think will work great for Dungeons and Dragons is the Grimkeeper, the Cage Monster. And I think this would be an epic battle, especially if you could lock the characters in that little prison in his chest, or even maybe have them save a character that was in that little prison on his chest. As you can see, he is a tall, lanky, and skeleton-looking creature. Maybe this is a golem or some type of demon, or just some big hideous monster that your characters have to face off against. He has got some great articulation, and his head moves up and down as well as his mouth opens a little bit. And of course, you can open up that cage in his chest and put someone inside. You may or may not want to use a little lamp over there on the side, but overall, he could be a really cool encounter for your player characters. And here he is up against some of the Dungeons & Dragons collectible minifigures, so you can really see the epic scale and size of this guy. I always think it's really cool in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign to give some big monsters for your characters to fight, something that really feels intimidating or monstrous or looks like it's going to be a challenge for them to beat. And this guy does all of those things. There's not really any alternate builds with this one, and you do get some minifigures, but they're maybe not as Dungeons and Dragons versatile as the other set that I talked about earlier. You might could use some of these pieces for different things, but like their clothes, especially Cooper over there with the blonde hair, are a little bit more modern than maybe what you'd see in Dungeons and Dragons. Now, the little Z blob that comes with this is cool. You could use him for some kind of blob enemy. And maybe if you have little spaceships or little flying machines in your campaign, you might could use this little thing. But the translucent green pieces are always really cool. I like to use those for slime or some type of ooze that may be on a floor in a dungeon or next to a gelatinous cube or something like that. So I'm sure you can get creative and figured out some fun things to do with some of these pieces in this set. There's just something fun and cute about that little Z blob, the little green slime with the eyeballs. I'm sure you could come up with something creative to do with it. But if you use Lego for miniatures and Dungeons and Dragons, there's a lot of great things you could do with this set. I just can't wait to have some characters fight this thing. And I also found this at McKay's recently, so I'm excited to try this out in Dungeons & Dragons as well. It could be used as a mech that one of the enemy characters get into, or maybe even your player characters to do something with. That could be a lot of fun. So there's a quick look at some of the sets I picked up recently to use as miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. All three of these sets will have links in my description, so you can pick them up from Amazon if you'd like to. And if you use my links, that really helps my channel out because they are affiliate links. And so anything that I make from my affiliate links goes back into my website and my channel. And so I very much appreciate that. Also, be on the lookout because I'm going to soon, hopefully this coming week, be putting out a video on the medieval town square. I've got it put together. I'm going to give you an in-depth 10-minute tour of that, and it will be great. And it's also another great set that you can use for Dungeons & Dragons miniatures. And as I end, I want you to know that I love and appreciate you, and I am so thankful that you are watching my videos. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Build with Travis because that really helps me out. And until next time, keep building.